I'm on a mission to find the best magnetic toppers so that I can turn any polish look into a magnetic polish look. Personally, I'm looking for a polish that just has that magnetic pigment and magnetic flash without anything in the base, just a completely clear base. Let's see if Fancy Gloss's magnetic toppers do that for us. So I got 6 toppers in total. I got the silver, gold, pink, light blue, green, and copper toppers. I ordered from Fancy Gloss directly off of their website during one of their monthly restocks and got the order back in about 2 weeks' time. Each of these polishes were $10.50 each, and they come in 15 ml bottles with a nice rounded wide paddle brush. Currently, all 6 that I purchased are out of stock on their website. Usually they'll restock on that monthly basis though. All of these polishes are vegan, cruelty-free, and 10-free. Going through each of the polishes now because they all kind of have a slightly different formula. First up, we have the silver topper. This polish topper is a really neutral silver, but at some certain angles, you kind of see a gold spark come through. It's almost like you're hallucinating the gold sparkle sometimes, but if you flash and move your finger a certain way, you'll kind of see it in some angles. Formula on this specific color was actually kind of thick compared to the other 5 that I tried. It wasn't so thick that it was like unworkable, but just something to note. There was a bit of kind of pigment pooling when I was going to apply the polish. For the silver, the magnetic pigment is super strong and the flash is really noticeable. Here's a swatch in both the cat eye fashion as well as the velvet fashion. You can see from the swatches this topper isn't fully clear. Like the base of it is not fully clear. When I turn the nail to the side, you can kind of see that the base of the color, kind of like the background pigment of the color, kind of looks like a dark gray cast, almost like it's sediment at the bottom of a lake. You can also see kind of that dark gray cast when I moved the pigment around in the bottle itself. Also, out of curiosity, I tested this over Orly's Sea Spray as well as Orly's Aloe Goodbye. Aloe Goodbye is a mid-toned kind of gray creme with the slightest amount of green shimmer running through it, but it's so subtle that you don't really notice it, so I treat it more as just like a gray creme. Sea Spray is a slightly squishy off-white base with a very light copper shimmer running through it. This shimmer you can actually see more than in the Aloe Goodbye. When topped over Aloe Goodbye, you don't actually see the cast that much because I think the depth of that dark cast matches pretty closely in depth with Aloe Goodbye. Sea Spray though was an entirely different story. When I topped the topper over Sea Spray, it fully darkened the polish. It changed the color of the polish completely. On top of Sea Spray, when I look at it as my nails turned to the side where the magnetic pigment isn't flashing at me, it's no longer that kind of bright off-white base anymore. It's just gray. All I see is gray. On a black swatch stick though, I don't notice any of the cast. So if you paint this over any darker colors, darker than that cast color, you should be fine. Quick note on the silver topper specifically. On the website, this is the only topper out of the 6 that I picked up that had pictures showing this topper over a white polish. I think there's a red polish and then also a nude polish, which after looking at those pictures for me, I had kind of assumed this should be a clear base. I'm expecting this to be like a clear topper with no color in the background. My own experience though was different. You can see from my swatches themselves, there is color to the base. There is a dark cast in the base. And I think the pictures on the site are kind of misleading. Though because this is a indie brand with different batches, I might have just gotten a batch that had darker pigments and darker casts than what the original shots were based off of. Looking at the pink topper now, so this pink leans closer to a magenta color than more of like a Barbie pink. The formula here was great, not too thick or runny. The magnetic pigment was super strong and produced a really beautiful flash. Here's the swatch in the cat eye form as well as the velvet form. You can also see in these swatches, the topper is not completely clear. The background here, there is that gray cast again. When I turn the nail to the side, you can see a darker gray cast that looks like chocolate specks. I tested this over Orly's Check Yes or No, which is a slightly purpled pink color, and the dark cast on the topper kind of overtakes the polish here. When I'm looking directly at it and the magnetic flash is flashing in my face, I don't notice any of that dark cast taking over, but if I turn my nail to the side, again, that speckle comes out and the originally bright kind of purpled pink color no longer comes through. Over a black swatch stick though, you don't notice the cast at all. So again, if you want to use this topper over darker colors that match closer to the depth of the cast, you shouldn't have any concerns. The light blue topper now. So the light blue topper here leans more aqua, and I think it would look really cool in any sort of like water-based nail art. Again, the formula here is really nice, not too thick, not too runny. The magnetic pigment here is super strong and produced a really beautiful aqua flash. Here's the swatch in both the cat eye form as well as the velvet form. As you can see from the swatches, again, this topper is not completely clear. You can see that dark cast behind it, and I would almost say this is maybe the darkest cast out of all of the polishes that I picked up. You can see it's a pretty deep color here just on my bare nails. In some of the other colors that I mentioned, turning the nail to the side when there was no longer that magnetic flash really showed the tint of the color. In this blue topper though, I don't even have to turn it. You can see even through the magnetic flash that the base pigment or the base color is tinting the color of the polish itself. I tested this topper on my brother-in-law actually over Blue Tango from Orly, which is kind of a prelly, deeper royal blue color. With a color that dark, you don't really notice the cast, so I think that combination is really good. I don't think this would work really well over lighter colors. On my bare nails, the dark cast was extremely obvious. This is a topper I would only wear over darker colors. I don't think I would wear this by itself or over lighter colors at all. On a black swatch stick here, you can see that there is no cast that you can really notice. So again, dark colors all the way for this light blue topper. The green topper here flashes a light emerald color when you use it on its own. Formula here was just like the last two, nothing to complain about. Magnetic pigment is really strong and magnetized really easily. Here's the swatch in the cat eye version as well as in the velvet version. Same thing as before. You can see that the topper here doesn't have a fully clear base. It again has that darker cast to it. In the cat eye swatches specifically, you can pretty clearly see how the cast is pretty dark with kind of like a tint of green to it. I tested this over Orly's Frond of You, which is a Kelly green color, and with a topper on top of this color, it turns it into the super, super gorgeous, like 3D emerald color. It's a really interesting look. When I turn the nail to the side though, when there's no longer that magnetic flash, you can see the dark cast again. In this case though, the combo works really nicely because the darker cast on top of that Kelly green produces this really 3D looking effect that creates that like emerald, like it looks like a jewel on my nail. I would definitely recommend wearing this topper over darker colors, or in this case where I was using kind of a lighter mid-tone color, accepting that it's going to darken that color. Sometimes that darkening does look really nice, like in this case for this specific combo. Over a black swatch stick, you don't notice the dark cast at all, so after a certain point when you're using the darker colors, you won't notice the cast, you'll just see the flash of that magnetic pigment. The gold topper here leans almost like an antique gold or a amber color. I think the formula here is different than the other ones that I've mentioned so far, specifically because of the particle size. So the actual formula, the base that it was in wasn't runny or thick at all, so it wasn't difficult to work with. But if you look at the pigment size here, the gold topper is so much smaller and smoother upon application than the other pigments. The magnetic pull strength on the gold topper was also not as strong as the other toppers. I think it might be possible that a different pigment or a different pigment type was used here to produce the gold topper versus all the other toppers. Here's the swatch in the cat eye version as well as the velvet version. Another piece of evidence to point to that this might be a slightly different formula than the other ones. If you'll notice in the base color here, it's an amber colored base and not like that gray tint that we were seeing with the other polishes. In this case, this might be the first topper that I would be fully comfortable with wearing by itself because it's a really cool amber look to it. When it's not topped over anything, it looks like amber encased in my fingernails. I did test it over Orly's Caught Off Gourd, which is a yellow-orange creme color. It's like a butternut squash color. In this case, because the topper and the color were so close in depth, the topper only slightly darkened the base, but I kind of feel like in this combo, having that base color almost takes away from the beauty of the topper because part of why the topper by itself looked so gorgeous was because the base was translucent. There was that jelly quality to it where it looked like amber. With the opaque base though, it turns into not as much of that squishy color and that squishy texture, visual texture. So in this case, I would almost say don't top it over anything. On the black swatch stick, you can kind of see how the base here shows up a bit more. I wouldn't say it's really stark in how the base color is showing up against black, but it does show up as a gold polish, almost like a gold metallic polish on top of that black swatch stick. Final topper I have here is the copper one, which comes across almost like a shiny penny color. The formula here aligns with the formula that we saw with the blue, pink, and green topper. It has those larger, stronger magnetic pole particles. Here's the swatch in the cat eye version as well as the velvet version. You can again see similar formula to the other ones that I mentioned. The dark cast is back at play here. If I move my nail to the side where the magnetic pigment is no longer flashing, you can see that speckled look again. I probably wouldn't wear this by itself because of that speckle. I topped this over Orly's In the Conservatory, which is a dusty brick red color, which in this combo, it pulls the topper to be more in that red leaning direction because of the base color, than more of that like shiny penny color. If I turn my nail to the side here, you can still see how that base pigment on the topper starts to darken the color of the original base color. Over the black swatch stick, you can see here, the cast doesn't show up. There's no concern about the cast here. Final thoughts. I think there are a few different formulas at play within the magnetic topper collection that Fancy Gloss has going on. There's the silver top coat that is the slightly thicker formula. There's the gold top coat that is using the smaller particle size, and it's not as strong of a pull. And then you have the blue, pink, green, and copper top coats that all have that really dark base color to them, or the dark base pigment to them that produces that gray cast. Overall, I don't think these are my perfect toppers because of the amount of dark cast they have associated with them. When I apply them by themselves, they aren't clear. When I turn them to the side, they aren't clear. I would definitely wear the gold by itself, but I wouldn't wear it as a topper necessarily. I would wear the gold topper as a polish that's like gold encased in amber. The other polish colors I would definitely wear over darker polish colors, or accept that putting this on top of this lighter color is going to darken the base. Okay, that's all for me. Thanks!